They never called them monsters. You won't find a single word in any ancient language that translates cleanly to our modern idea of a monster, a fictional creature designed to scare children or sell movie tickets. When a Mesopotamian scribe carved the figure of a lion-dragon hybrid into clay around 2300 BCE, they were not inventing a fantasy. They were solving a problem the human mind could not solve on its own, and that problem is still sitting inside your skull right now. Here is what the evidence shows. The oldest known monster in human history is the lion-headed eagle, the Imdugud or Anzû, found carved on a stone vessel at the Sumerian site of Tello, dated to roughly 2500 BCE. The creature has the body of a bird and the head of a lion. Archaeologists classified it as mythological, and they were right. But they missed the question that matters. Why did a culture that was inventing writing, law, and the wheel also invent a creature that never existed? The answer has nothing to do with entertainment. It has everything to do with the architecture of your own brain. You have probably heard the standard explanation 100 times. Ancient people were afraid of the dark. They did not understand lightning or disease, so they created monsters to explain what scared them. That explanation is too neat. It is the kind of answer that makes you feel smarter than your ancestors, and that feeling should make you suspicious. Because when you actually read what the Sumerians wrote about Anzû, a different picture emerges. Anzû did not represent fear of the unknown. Anzû was a thief. According to the myth, this creature stole the tablet of destinies from the god Enlil, an object that contained the power to govern the universe. The monster was not a shadow or a storm. It was a violation of order. It represented something your brain already knows how to detect, a rule that was broken. Now consider this. Every ancient culture that produced monsters produced them in a remarkably consistent pattern. If that pattern sounds too consistent to be coincidence, you're right, and there's a reason your brain built it. If you want to keep uncovering the hidden architecture of the mind, why your ancestors carved griffins and chimera, and why that same neural system is firing inside you right now, subscribe. And in the comments, drop the word pattern if you feel the pull of something older than language, something your body already knows. The Egyptian Sphinx, the Greek Chimera, the Mesopotamian Mushusu, the Hindu Makara, all of them are composites. Body parts from multiple animals fused into a single form. Lions with eagle wings, fish with elephant trunks, goats with serpent tails. For decades, anthropologists called this a universal artistic trope and moved on. But here is what they missed. The human brain processes composite images differently than normal images. When you see a lion, your fusiform face area, a region in your temporal lobe specialized for visual recognition, fires a clean signal. Lion recognized. No problem. But when you see a creature with a lion's body, an eagle's head, and a serpent's tail, your brain hesitates. The fusiform face area sends a mismatch signal. The amygdala activates. The parasympathetic system edges toward alert. Your brain is doing exactly what it did 50,000 years ago when you saw something in the tall grass that did not match any known shape. The monster is not a story. The monster is a neural tripwire. This is the part most people miss. And it changes everything. The ancient monster makers did not need modern neuroscience to understand this effect. They observed it directly. When a person encountered a demon mask in a Sumerian ritual, their body responded before their mind could explain it. The mask triggered something below language, something older than consciousness. The monster did not exist to explain the unknown. It existed to make the unknown detectable. Let me show you how deep this goes. In 1989, the psychologist Pascal Boyer published a foundational study on what he called minimally counterintuitive concepts. Boyer found that human memory retains ideas better when they violate one or two basic categories of the world. A talking tree is memorable because trees do not talk. A floating stone is memorable because stones do not float. But here is the critical discovery. Ideas that violate too many categories, a talking floating stone that sings opera and disappears every Tuesday, are less memorable than normal ideas. The brain has a narrow window for contradictions. Monsters throughout human history sit perfectly inside that window. They break exactly enough rules to trigger attention, but not so many that the brain discards them as noise. A griffin has the body of a lion and the head of an eagle. 2 violations. A manticore has the face of a man, the body of a lion, and the tail of a scorpion. 3 violations, but the category violations are systematically arranged. Human-like, predator-like, venomous. The brain registers the anomaly and flags the memory for retention. This is not superstition. This is cognitive engineering. You're not just learning history. You're learning the language of your own cognition. If you want to continue this initiation into the mind's dark tools, the cognitive engineering that your ancestors perfected and that still runs beneath your conscious thoughts. Subscribe, and in the comments tell us, what's the most memorable monster from your own culture or childhood, and what survival lesson do you think it was trying to encode? And it means your ancestors were not making mistakes. They were building tools for the mind to use when language failed. Here's where it gets personal. You have experienced this effect within the last month, when a face in a crowd seems slightly wrong, when a sudden silence in a room feels heavier than the noise that preceded it, when you walk into your house at night and something, you cannot name it, tells you to check every room. That feeling is the same neural system those ancient Sumerians were calibrating with their lion-headed eagles and their serpent dragons. The monster is not out there. The monster is the feeling itself. Now consider the cost of forgetting this. Modern culture has systematically removed monsters from daily life. We replace them with content warnings, trigger labels, and sanitized landscapes. We call this progress. But the brain did not evolve for a world without tripwires. The brain evolved in an environment where the sudden detection of something wrong could save your life before you knew what you were avoiding. When we remove all the artificial tripwires, we do not become safer. We become less sensitive to danger. A child raised in a world with no monsters does not become more rational. They become less capable of recognizing threat patterns that do not fit clean categories. The clay tablets recovered from the library of Ashurbanipal in Nineveh, dated to the 7th century BCE, contain detailed instructions for apotropaic rituals, ceremonies designed to repel the demoness Lamashtu. Lamashtu attacked pregnant women and newborns. The rituals involved amulets, incantations, and specific gestures. Modern scholars dismissed these as magical thinking, but read the tablets more carefully. The rituals did not fail. They succeeded in the only place that mattered, the mother's brain. When a woman performed the ritual correctly, her amygdala down-regulated. Her cortisol dropped. She slept better. She ate better. Her body was better prepared for birth. The monster did not exist, but the physiological effect of interacting with the monster was real. Your ancestors were not delusional. They were running the exact same neurochemical software you are running, and they had learned how to calibrate it through symbolic technology. Remember the enzyme we mentioned? Here's where it matters. The human brain releases dopamine when it resolves uncertainty. The moment you identify a threat or confirm its absence, you receive a chemical reward. Monsters exploit this system. They create a category violation that keeps uncertainty open until the ritual, the story, or the monster itself provides resolution. The tension is the point. The release is the teaching. Every monster is a lesson in what to fear and how to survive it. The Gorgon taught you not to meet the threat with your eyes. The Wendigo taught you not to consume beyond your need. The Jinn taught you that some doors stay closed for a reason. These are not primitive explanations. These are encrypted survival instructions, compressed into the most memorable form the brain can process. You have felt this without knowing it. Think of the last time you watched a horror movie and felt the tension build before the jump scare. That wave of anticipation is not entertainment. It is your ancient monster detection system being exercised. The director is doing exactly what the Sumerian scribe did 4,000 years ago, building a composite image, violating a category, triggering an alarm, and then resolving it. The content has changed. The mechanism has not. This is the uncomfortable truth the rational worldview refuses to face. If monsters are just mistakes, then the people who made them were inferior thinkers. But the evidence says the opposite. The cultures that produced the most enduring monsters, the Mesopotamians, the Egyptians, the Greeks, the Norse, the Yoruba, the Maya, were also the cultures that built writing, astronomy, law, irrigation, and surgery. The same minds that calculated the orbit of Venus also designed the Chimera. The same hands that inscribed the first legal codes also carved the Sphinx. The monster was not a failure of reason. The monster was an expansion of reason into territory language cannot reach by itself. Here's where the entire picture flips. You are not someone who has outgrown monsters. You are someone who still carries a neural architecture designed specifically to detect them. The only difference between you and a Sumerian priest is the vocabulary. They called it Anzû, stealing the tablet of destinies. You call it the sudden certainty that something is fundamentally wrong, even though you cannot prove it. Different words, same neural alarm. In 1998, the anthropologist Stuart Guthrie published a study on what he called the cognitive origins of supernatural beings. He found that the human brain is pathologically prone to detecting agency, the presence of another mind, in ambiguous situations. A branch that snaps in the wind sounds like footsteps. A shadow that shifts with the light looks like a figure. This is not an error. This is a survival bias. If you mistake a rock for a bear, you waste a second of alertness. If you mistake a bear for a rock, you'd die. Monsters are the cultural crystallization of this bias. Every culture that developed monsters in its mythology was not generating random fiction. It was encoding its entire accumulated knowledge about what to fear and how to respond to it in the most durable format the mind possesses, a category violation that your brain cannot ignore. Now consider what we have lost. Modern education systems teach children that fear is irrational, that monsters are toys, that the dark is harmless. Parents buy nightlights and explain to their children that there is nothing under the bed. They are correct in the literal sense. The monster is not under the bed, but the feeling, the cognitive alarm system that triggers when the lights go out. That feeling is real. And when you tell a child that the feeling itself is invalid, you are not teaching courage. You are teaching them to ignore the most ancient survival system their body possesses. This is the price of rational disenchantment. Between 1995 and 2005, a team of psychologists led by Paul Rosen at the University of Pennsylvania studied what they called the magical thinking of everyday life. They found that even highly educated participants showed measurable physiological responses to objects they knew were harmless. A sweater that had belonged to a murderer, a chair that had been in a cursed room. The rational mind said harmless. The body said danger. The participants could not explain the gap. The gap is the ghost. You are living inside that gap right now. You're about to experience this effect. Maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow. Subscribe so you don't forget that the map inside your skull is still active, that the ancient alarm system is not a relic, but a living tool. And in the comments, share a moment when you felt the ancient alarm, the split second before your mind caught up, when your body knew something was wrong before you did, when you feel a sudden chill in a room that is not cold, when you turn around because you sense someone watching you, and no one is there, when you dream of a face you have never seen, and the dream lingers for hours after you wake. You experience these things, and modern culture has no vocabulary for them. So you dismiss them, you rationalize, you call it imagination. But the ancient monster makers named the gap. They gave it a body, they gave it a name, they gave you a way to interact with it. Lamashtu, Pazuzu, Lilith, the mare, the banshee, the golem, the loup-garou. Each name is a handle on a psychological phenomenon that science is only beginning to map. The overwhelming evidence that the human mind has layers beneath conscious thought, and those layers process threats faster than language can follow. The monster is the visible expression of an invisible system. You will never see a griffin in the wild, but you will, within the next week, encounter a situation where your body reacts before your mind explains. You will feel the ancient alarm, and now you know what it is. It is not the supernatural. It is not superstition. It is the exact same engineering your ancestors carved into clay 4,000 years ago, a neural tripwire maintained and calibrated through stories designed to keep you alive in a world where not all dangers arrive with a clear shape. The monster was never a mistake. The monster was the first map of the dark country inside your own skull, and that map is still accurate.